Dr. Jason J. Campbell, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. This video is a continuation of my lecture series on the logic of argumentation, and the structure of the series is very simple. I've selected 5 logical rules of inference. Of these 5 logical rules of inference, I am going to incorporate them as the foundation, the guide, with which I then appropriate each of the logical rules of inference to the construction of sort of thought, really, in general, but specifically the construction of a paper, of an essay, of ideas, what have you. The direct implication, obviously, is the construction of papers and such, right? To be able to use these mathematical rules, these logical rules, in order to appropriate those rules to the construction of argument. On a deeper level, the idea is our mind, right? And I mean mind in the biological sense, right? Our mind is that which is the source for all of our argumentation. Our argumentation comes as a consequence of how we think. So if we recognize that these rules are specifically appropriated to rhetoric, to argumentation, and we recognize that argumentation is itself derived from the way in which we rationalize our thought, organize, sort, justify our thought, then these rules of logic, right, these rules of inference, then condition the way in which we think, right? That's ultimately where this is really going, right? It is a way of, in a sense, programming yourself to think in a particular manner. And the more you do this, now everyone won't have the opportunity to implement these rules as consistently and as frequently as I do. I'm a university professor. This is all I do all day long, right? All I do is either look for these rules in other people's, or the misuse of these rules in other people's writing, or I incorporate these rules in my own writing. So I mean, I've had my share of practice, for sure. With anything that you do, you need to attain, if you so desire, you need to attain mastery, but really the only way to attain mastery is by habituation and continual practice, right? So hopefully, if nothing more, this lecture series contributes to a very clear, very exact pedagogical means of appropriating the rules of logic prior to the actual typing of the words, right? The proof is in the pudding, and the proof is that you can, not even theoretically, and really not complicated, right? This is the practical proof demonstration application bit, that you can construct an entire argument before you know what the argument is, out in sort of symbolic logic, mathematical logic, epistemic modal logic, whatever type of logic, fuzzy logic, any form of logic, really, prior to actually writing, make sure that it's all consistent, and then construct your argument. Right, that's what this is about, which makes your argument, has a particular tone to it though, right? It's not going to be like creative writing. The tone is a lot different. It's a very rigorous, sort of systematic tone. The sound, the cadence is a different type of cadence than creative writing. But the idea is, you know, you got a term paper to turn in, and you appropriate this to the construction of a term paper, to your final exam, to your thesis, to your dissertation, to your future research. Well, I mean, I've contributed something significant, because now I'm helping you hopefully see how you can greater argue and defend your claims or attack someone else's claims that you think to be weak and such. So far we've done, the first was, what was the first again? Modus ponens. Then we did modus tollens. Section 3 is going to be hypothetical syllogism, and then we just have 2 more. I think it's disjunctive syllogism in section 4, which I have yet to write. And then the next is, I think conjunction is the last one, right? So we're nearing the end of the series. As I said before from the beginning, it's going to be a very dense series, but it won't be very long per se in duration with respect to comparing it against my other series, which I think most of them average around 12 to 14 hours. Some of them go as long as 20 to 50 hours, right? Alright, so we're on page 10 in my notes, as you guys know and gals know. Just click the link in the description field. It'll take you to the PDF. Obviously, I've just recently updated it. It's funny because I remember maybe a day or 2 days ago, I was looking at this part of the page and I was like, it's blank now, and I don't know what will happen. 10 pages happened, right? Now, again, you know, people, I read the comments while I'm doing these notes, and somebody was like, this is ridiculous. It's just so much, verbiage, and he's just talking for the sake of talking, or whatever. The idea is I don't try to make this longer than it needs to be. It needs to be 10 pages. When the argument has fleshed itself out, then it stops. What's really difficult on my end, not so much on your end, but on my end, is constructing the series in such a way that you see systematically how to appropriate these concepts to rhetorical analysis and rhetorical construction. To my knowledge, not even to my knowledge, no one's done this, right? No one's done this. So, being the first person to do it is in itself a very difficult thing. So, appropriate this as you see fit for the purposes that you see fit. Okay, so this is Introduction to Logic of Argumentation. Intro to the I can already tell that this is going to die out rather quickly. And this is section 3. This one's going to die out as well. I need to get me some markers. Luckily, I have tons of them. I need to get a new stack though. And today we are going to be looking at the hypothetical syllogism. Let's put it over here. Oh my goodness, you gotta be joking, right? Oh, damn markers. We're going to be looking at the hypothetical. Finally. We're going to be looking at the hypothetical syllogism, which says, if A happens, then B happens. If B happens, then C happens. Therefore, if A happens, then C happens. Right? That's the argumentation form. Specifically, what I said in the previous videos, in the prerequisite videos that I hope everyone's watched. If you don't really have an understanding of sort of the basics, the introduction to symbolic logic. This is a form of logic. It's called symbolic logic. With respect to symbolic logic, the argument that I gave was something like, if it rains outside, I'll bring my umbrella. So A stands for if it rains outside, B stands for I bring my umbrella. If I bring my umbrella, I will not get wet. If I bring my umbrella, I will not get wet. Therefore, if it rains outside, I will not get wet. If it rains outside, I will not get wet. So if it rains outside, I'll bring my umbrella. If I bring my umbrella, I won't get wet. Therefore, if it rains outside, I won't get wet. That's the argumentation form. We're going to apply this argumentation form to specifically our ongoing discourse on the conservation of water. The last thing that we saw in section 2, I think I ended with the initial implication from the logic and posited it as the condition with which we'll link each of these rules of inference together, right? We need to link each of the rules together such that we have really one expanded argument. And this is the intro level, right? I know that this is already complicated, right? And obviously this is incentive, if nothing else, to learn more logic so that you can do more complicated arguments. But, I mean, technically I really don't even need to finish the series. I've already demonstrated my point that you can use straight logic prior to even knowing what you're going to discuss, and then discuss the idea based on the logical rules of inference that you'll be applying. And I may or may not do something at the end of this series after I've done all 5 parts. I'm still sort of debating it because I'm about to start a new series on national security affairs, so I need to hurry up and get to that. Not that I'm rushing this, but the stream takes me somewhere else and I go where it takes me. So let's look at the parts of this argument. There are 6 parts to this argument. So within our analysis of the application of the logic, to aid us in the construction of argument, arguably the hypothetical syllogism, HS, is one of the most convenient logical rules of inference. Once you really have an understanding of how to use this, it's probably going to end up being one of your default, rules. For me, this is an extremely important rule. I apply, of the 5 sort of basic inference rules, these 5 that I'm introducing, I would say I probably use hypothetical syllogism, either hypothetical or maybe Toland's, right? I probably use those 2 the most. when I do